Hello, welcome to Flint Talk Radio. I'm Sam Jahari.
Hey, I'm Charlie Buckley. Good afternoon.
We are a community parent, and a couple days ago, I got something I want to share with you. I was over in Dearborn. I was getting merchandise and stuff, and as I was going to my last stop, now I'm in the Detroit area. As I pull into this stop, I see this lady just passing out as I'm driving by her. So I parked my van and I ran over to her, and her eyes were kind of rolled back in her head and stuff, and this really reminded me of my daughter, seeing my daughter like this, So anyways, it just kept, trying to wake her up and stuff, and she kind of opened up her eyes and stuff, and I was asking her, I says, honey, are you on drugs? Are you diabetic? I'm trying to find out what's going on with her. So I call 911, and then all of a sudden, about 10 minutes later, the first cop shows up, and he's like 6'8", big black dude, and he's standing straight up, and he's looking down at her, and he's yelling, "What's your name? What's your name?" And she's trying to tell him, but she's mumbling, so he can't really understand her, but he wouldn't get close enough to her, and I'm hearing her, so I'm telling him what I'm getting from her. Anyways, about 5 minutes later, here comes another cop car, Detroit police. I don't know if these guys were like undercover or what, but they had, the vests on, the bulletproof vests and stuff. So they get there, and they start like, "Hey man, when did you come back to work?" And they're having fun. Nobody ever came close enough to this lady to check to see if she had a pulse or to see what is going on with her. I was so pissed off at the time, it's like, I says, you're not going to do anything. The one cop, he says, "Oh, she's probably overdosing, just stay away from her." I was like, you don't want to check her pulse, or you don't want to see if there's anything you can, if there's anything you can do? He's like, "Oh yeah, she's probably overdosing, just leave her alone." And that's such a trip, it's like they've given up on these addicts. They've given up on these people, this mental health issue. It's like it's not going away, and they haven't a clue of what to do for them. So they've just written these people off, and I was so perturbed with these cops, and I was there for 20 minutes. The ambulance still hadn't showed up, And I just went into this bakery. I got what I needed, and I got the hell out of there. I was so pissed off, It's like I didn't get it. This reminded me back, of like my daughter when we went into the hospital, and this doctor that should know better about addiction or whatever, didn't have a clue either. She's yelling at her because she did this to herself. And this is the society we live in. It's like we've written off these people. They say, "Oh, well, it's 10%. Bullshit, Where the heck is the empathy? Where's people's feelings, man? It's like they've just gotten cold to this, that it happens all the time. Every 19 minutes we're losing somebody to an overdose.
Right.
And it seems like these people that are in these places that ought to know better, there's no compassion. I don't think they really care if they've gone numb to it.
Well, I still think it comes down to education and awareness. It's, and there is that numb factor. Especially with let's call them first responders, whether it's the police, the EMTs, the doctors, the emergency room staff. They see it so often that they've become desensitized to it in some ways. And I find that a little bit hard personally to wrap my arms around, because we see it every day and we are hypersensitive to it. There's 23 million Americans struggling with addiction. 23 million. This isn't, and those are the people that are struggling. We're not even talking about the ripple effect as far as their spouses, children, parents, brothers, sisters, aunts, uncles, coworkers. Sure. It touches everybody. There was a great blog post written by a doctor out in the San Francisco Bay Area, Lisa Fredrickson. And she had written it within the last couple weeks. It was when all the Pride celebrations were going on for the lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender community, and she's and she's an addiction specialist. And her point was, is there a lesson to be learned from the LGBT community as far as there are a lot of parallels. If you look at the members of that community and their fear and the stigma that is still associated, but was even more so, and what they've had to do to, bring it out of the closet in their terms. I was watching a great TED presentation from TED Boulder, Colorado, and there was a woman saying that everybody's got a closet. Doesn't matter whether it's homosexuality or addiction or cancer or everybody's got something. All a closet is a hard conversation, a difficult conversation.
Sure.
And I responded to Lisa. I know her, and I responded that it still comes down to education and awareness, and that's what the gay and lesbian community has done very, very well. Flint had their Pride Days down at the river, and all the major cities, and you've got some very high-profile individuals like I can never pronounce his last name right, but George Takei, he was from the original Star Trek. And it's going to take, I can sit here all day and tell my story, but at the end of the day, I'm nobody. You can tell Brianna's story, and it's painful, and it's important, and it's your flag, and you're going to wave it, and thank you. But people 2 counties away, they didn't know Brianna. And when it's a Philip Seymour Hoffman, when it's a Heath Ledger, when it's an Amy Winehouse, it gets all the news. Very interesting. It's been several weeks since we've been on. Some of the celebrities, Anthony Hopkins is very outspoken about when he took his last drink, and he's not afraid to say that he's in recovery. Robin Williams was addicted to cocaine and alcohol, went into treatment in the early 80s, was clean and sober for 20 plus years, had a relapse. He's been clean and sober now for another 10 years or so. He checked back into Hazelden out in Minnesota, but not to seek treatment for addiction. He was very open about it. He was at the local Dairy Queen and somebody took his picture, and he posed with the girl and he said, "No, I'm back in. The reason I'm back in is I'm just doing whatever I need to do to stay sober. I've just done 3 movies back to back to back. I'm exhausted. I'm tired. All of the triggers are there that are gonna suck me back in. So I checked in for a month. Now he's got the means to do that.
Sure.
Ellen DeGeneres' wife, Portia de Rossi, the actress, they just announced this week that she had checked into a treatment facility for a month back in May. Robert Downey Jr. He's been very well known for his struggles. Well, a couple weeks ago, his son gets arrested for cocaine possession. And what I loved, hated to see that happen, but what I loved to see was Robert Downey Jr. didn't stick his head in the sand, didn't act embarrassed or ashamed. He came right out to the media and said, "Hey, it's unfortunate. We're going to get him the help he needs. Let's recognize that he's got a genetic link to this disease." And he said that.
Exactly.
And you and I say it every week.
Exactly.
But, and there's going to be doctors that will say it, but the sad fact is, in this society, this media-driven Twitter society where it's a news bite, it's a bullet, it's a bulletin, people are going to remember Robert Downey Jr. saying that long before they'll remember me saying that or their family physician. So education and awareness is still the key.
As a matter of fact, we are trying to get a hold of Mr. Downey to bring him aboard.
Well, that'd be great. If we could have Iron Man in the studio.
Exactly.
I am the original OG Superman. I've got pictures to prove it back from the late 60s. When it was George Reeves was the original Superman. And
well,
they're filming Batman versus Superman in Argentine Township.
Community Parent was formed to educate. to bring this awareness out in the public. What happened is my Brianna died of an overdose on Valentine's Day 2011. A couple days later, there was another girl that was 19 that also died of an overdose of the same thing. And Brianna's coaches, she was in debate, and her coaches were so surprised that this was happening in our neighborhood. We are the Fenton area, and they thought, well, this doesn't happen here. This is a good town, that this doesn't happen. But as we started speaking about this epidemic, we were finding that it's happening in all kinds of neighborhoods, good, bad, ugly, no matter what it is, how much money you make, or what color your skin is, or whatever. It's happening to everybody. Everybody is touched by drugs and alcohol. So we took this fight because if you're quiet, nothing can happen or nothing can change. So we went to our youth to educate the youth about this epidemic and about addiction. We want to bring it out in the forefront. So if you struggle with addiction, you can see what's happening to you. Something is overpowering you, and you do the ugliest things that you never would have thought that you would do. But that's what drugs do. Addiction. Okay, addiction isn't necessarily drugs, gambling, food,
sex,
pornography. But what happens is the drugs are such a destruction. Gambling, there's such a destruction. You lose everything that you love and you care about. And that's what addiction does. And a lot of times when we are addicts, we will bounce from one to the other. And that's what happens. Okay? We bring this to our youth. We've gone in front of over 45,000 kids and staff members and principals and teachers to teach them about addiction, to let them know that there is help out there. Addiction is something you will live with forever. There is no cure for it, but you can live a good life just knowing what triggers these things for you to go out and use, to go out and gamble, or whatever it is that you're addicted to. So that's why Community Parent was formed, and a little over 3 years, over 45,000 kids has heard this message. And are we getting anywhere? I believe we are. I believe we're touching a lot of lives, but we don't always hear of the good that we do. We do hear of the failures, the people that we lose along the way, but not always the people. We do get the responses every now and then, of people say, hey man, you saved my life. Thank you for coming to my school. I'm making a pledge today to never use drugs. Stuff like this. But the ones that we lose, they really touch us, and they stay with us to want to do better, to want to get the message out even further. And that's why Community Parent. I really miss being on the show. I've been so busy. I opened up my new business, and but it feels really good to come back out. And then after a few days ago, I've seen this happen in Detroit, where this lady passed out. It was like, oh my gosh. What happens is we have this epidemic. Then the people that we are, that are in charge, that you would think that knows better. See, the whole thing is with me, that's why I wanted to go out and speak, and that I was so pissed off at the system, whether it was the courts or the police or the doctors or whatever, is they didn't understand what was going on. How was I supposed to understand? Here I'm thinking that it's the same thing. My daughter, this is her choice. Why is she doing this? But addiction is not your choice. It's something is pulling you. This is like your God. It's the devil. the devil is pulling you so hard that you cannot refuse it. And it takes God really to get you out of it. You know, I'm not a preacher, but I know after I lost my daughter, I went through a depression so bad that, you know, within 5 months, I'm on 4 or 5 different medications. And finally it was like, you know what? I'm in pain. This pain is not going to take, you know, the drugs are not going to take anything away. I still feel this pain. And when I put it in God's hands, that's when, you know, it was taken off my shoulders. At least the weight, you know, I still struggle with depression. I'm not saying that I'm cured or whatever, but it's a loss that you learn to live with, that nothing is going to take that pain away from you. You know, the mental health issues in America, where we've turned our backs on it, and that's why there's so much people, you know, these mass killings and stuff like that. And we think there's a pill for everything that's going to solve our problems, and it's just making things worse. It's not really helping. You know, we need to get back and take care of these mental health issues, which addiction falls under. You know, because with addiction is depression and everything else too.
Well, 60% of all addicts have another underlying mental health issue.
Exactly. You know, when my daughter was little, you know, they kept wanting to say, "Oh, she's ADD. Oh, she's ADHD. You know, she needs to be medicated." And it's always people that they're not doctors. You know, they're people that maybe teachers or counselors or whatever. They haven't a clue, but you know, they think they know it all, and they think there's a pill for whatever problems these kids have. And I never really agreed with it, but when she got old enough where she started using, you know, she was started trying out marijuana, or she started drinking, you know, oh, she's bipolar, she's self-medicating, you know. And then at that point, it's like, you know, maybe I don't know any better. I'm not educated in this field. Maybe these people really know what they're doing. But the whole thing is, I think we've turned into these, you know, professional drug dealers, and they just want to push the medicine, not to find a cure or to help, but just to cover the symptoms, and it's making things worse off than where we started.
Right. No, I mean, you know, you hit on a very good point, Sam. This is a brain disease, absolutely recognized as a brain disease, and there are treatments for it. Some do include pharmaceuticals, therapy, different approaches, but the ultimate solution is a spiritual solution. And it's a spiritual solution that's good for 24 hours at a time.
Well, I don't know anything that's stronger than the devil but God.
Right.
And I, you know, I do believe that when somebody has or something has a hold of you like that, that's the work of the devil. And that's the only thing that's really going to get you to break away from that. Again, I'm not a preacher, okay? You know what, I think everybody needs their own personal relationship with God, and whatever gets you there, that's hallelujah.
Yep.
But I'm speaking out of, as a father, and just what I went through and what I needed to do for myself.
Well, and, you know, as community parent, it does start in the home. And, you know, I'm not passing, you know, blame or judgment on anybody, you know, in my family. But I'm in a family I'm not the first one to be touched by it. But we still didn't discuss it. We would mourn the loss of the individual, but we wouldn't talk about the reasons. We wouldn't talk to our kids about the reasons. We might say, don't do that, but, you know, just say no isn't enough.
Exactly.
And, you know, I look back and, you know, we've got a special guest in the studio today. We've got my four-legged daughter here, Molly. And the reason that I brought her in today was tomorrow is the 1-year anniversary of my epic crash and burn. July 10th, you know, is when I stood up off the couch. Next thing I knew, she was licking the dried blood off my face because I had face planted, and, you know, the rest is a pretty well documented story. But, you know, she saved my life. And because ultimately I ended up coding 3 more times, but I was under medical care. If she hadn't been there, who knows what would have happened. But we have to talk about it. I mean, my kids are probably sick of me talking about it. My parents are probably sick of me talking about it. I don't care. Get sick of me talking about it. Get used to being uncomfortable. Be comfortable being uncomfortable, because you know what? I'm not going away.
Well, I think it's a way to heal too. I think and to educate not only these youth, but to educate our family members.
Oh, absolutely.
This is what I went through.
Because it is a family disease.
Exactly. And the whole thing is this way. Your son or daughter. So if they struggled with that, at least they know. Okay, this is what you look for, or
right. or they're not going to be hesitant to say, "Hey, Dad, listen, I need help."
I need help, exactly.
And that's, I had one person that I had turned, and I screamed those words, "I'm sick, I need help," and I was told, "Get out." So then you've got somebody that you love telling you you're a piece of shit, and you feel like a piece of shit, so guess what? I'm a piece of shit. And then it was just crazy train, man. It was just off the rails until I crashed and burned. But then even with that, after being the second hospitalization, it still took me 10 more weeks of thinking that I was in control of things when I really wasn't, before I finally sought the help that I needed. Thank God I did. But thank God I did.
Well, that's just it. With addiction, I think you go through that period that you are a piece of shit.
Yeah.
You start thinking that you are the low of the low, because you're doing things that you would have never done in your life, whether it's stealing or whatever, that are just immoral. These are not your beliefs. But you start becoming this person that you don't know who you are.
Right.
And it's a cycle. It's a cycle from addiction. I know as family members. When I went through this with Brianna, I was very, very embarrassed. I did not want people to know what we were doing or what was going through our home. But after she died, it was like, as I started speaking out, I started learning about addiction. I finally was, it was like nobody ever taught me what it was all about.
Right.
Even, with Brianna going to rehab centers and stuff like that, and you had to come in and, sit down in these things, but they never really educated me on that. It was more trying to, the things that you went through, trying to heal,
right.
But it was never, these are the signs, this is what you need to do, or this is a sickness or whatever, I just thought it was choice.
Well, that was the best thing for me, when I did my inpatient vacation at Brighton, was, and I forget the percentage, I want to say it's like 80% of the staff, everybody from doctors, nurses, clinicians, custodial staff, food service staff, they're in recovery. And you're going up to the nurse's station for your meds, and then 2 days later, nurse, let's just call her Nurse X, she's talking to you about her struggle. And you're sitting there and you're going, holy crap. It's not just me. Because one of the common themes is every one of us that walked through those doors thought we were unique. We were the only ones that had these type of problems. And then you listen to 100 stories, and the names will change, the faces will change, the dates, the places, but they're all the same stories. It's the same, the stuff that you wouldn't say out loud, you're now telling what we're strangers, because there's a common bond there, there's a common thread. And then you all of a sudden you start to realize that, wait, God doesn't create shit, so I'm not a piece of shit.
Exactly.
There's something wrong. If I was diabetic and I had to take insulin, I would take my insulin. Well, if I have a brain disease that has a component of a reprieve, I don't like to call it a cure, obviously, but that is spiritual based. We don't want to talk about religion, because it's not a religion. It's a spiritual solution. Well, if taking my medicine is prayer and meditation and going to meetings and everything else, okay, why should I be embarrassed about that?
Exactly.
You know, I wouldn't be embarrassed if I was checking my blood sugar
Exactly.
before I ate lunch.
Yep.
It's no different.
Well, that's where we want to break the stigma. You know, what happens is the cream of the crop. Some of the best individuals are addicts, and a lot of times because of the stigma, they can't do what they're good at. You know, society closes that for them, or a lot of times, you know, they've got a record now or whatever. But it's like I said, addiction is not prejudice. It doesn't matter what color your skin is. It doesn't matter how much money you got. It doesn't matter if you're a doctor, lawyer, whatever. Okay,
Right.
this happens to everybody. Everybody is touched by drugs and alcohol. Okay, so don't think that you're immune to this or it doesn't happen here, because it will be knocking at your door.
Well, I remember walking into Brighton and I was scared. I didn't know what was going to go on. I remember saying, "Don't put me with any heroin addicts or crackheads or meth freaks or anything." And you know, those people. Well, I guess Molly wants to lay back down. She gets way too excited. Those people ended up becoming some of my best friends. You're in there with senior executives from Fortune 500 companies. You're in there with homeless people.
Exactly.
You're in there with professional athletes, professional entertainers, housewives, school teachers, construction workers, black, white, male, female, gay, straight. It doesn't matter. There is not a set. You know, you would think that some of the strictest religions in the world, you know, these people, because it's prohibited by their religion, and you see them and they're wearing a burqa. Well, guess what? There she is, or there he is, you know, sitting there in a meeting with you. It doesn't matter. It does not care.
Exactly. That's why, you know, we do this show not only to educate, but we need everybody to come aboard and join in this fight, because one hand by itself can't clap. So we need everybody to join in. Please help Community Parent to find the solutions to this epidemic. We're losing way too many people. Every 19 minutes, there's a drug overdose of drugs and alcohol. Put it that way. Every 19 minutes. Last year, Saline, Michigan, was voted as the #1 town to live in. That's next to Ann Arbor. Okay. They had 15 overdoses. 15 overdoses where 3 people died of heroin. Okay. And the chief of police and everybody in the community is just at an uproar. What? You know, this doesn't happen here. Well, it happens everywhere.
There was a great article. They're talking about doctors prescribing opioid painkillers, and you always bring up a great point that 80% of all heroin addicts start out with prescription painkillers. And there was a map of the United States, and this is courtesy of the CDC. So this is you know, widely publicized information, and they're talking about states that have prescriptions in relation to their residents. Okay, so states like Michigan, Illinois, Ohio, Kentucky, Tennessee, Mississippi, Alabama, North Carolina, and South Carolina all have more prescriptions written for, like, for example, they do it per 100 people. So there's 100 to 143 prescriptions written for for opioid painkillers for every 100 people in those states I just listed.
Wow.
So that's 1 to 1.5 times the number of prescriptions per people.
Exactly.
Per people. That's not talking about people that are getting prescriptions. That's for the entire residents.
Exactly.
I mean, it's crazy.
Well, this is what happens, okay, for these 10% that have these this genetic addiction disorder or this brain disease. What happens is you will go through life, whether it's a young age or later in life, and you will get a tooth pulled, or you will sprain an ankle. You go to your doctor, and the doctor will prescribe some pain medication. And what will happen is that just opens Pandora's box. And this will be like the cure to all cures, where this just, oh my God, where has this been all my life? And all of a sudden, these drugs just take over your life. And what happens is, as you start making up shit, oh, I lost my prescription, or this happened, or this happened, and you keep going back to your doctor, because that's what happens. You will be making up shit so you can go back and get more and more, because your body builds an immune system that you tolerate a lot more. So you start out maybe with 750 milligrams. Now you need 250 or whatever,
Right.
to feel the same thing.
And your intent isn't to abuse it. Your
Exactly.
intent is just to get the same results that you were getting previously.
Exactly. And what happens, you are prescribed these for pain. And what happens is these start forming pain that you feel like you are in so much pain that you just keep needing more and more and more. Now what happens is your doctor says, well, you're an addict. I'm not writing you any more prescriptions. So you will try to go to a few more doctors. And when that doesn't work out for you, what do? You turn to the street. And, some of those Oxycontins, they go for $80 a pill.
Yeah, $1 a milligram.
On the street. $80 a pill. All right. So what happens is when you got the money, you're okay. But when your money starts running low, you will find, someone that you think is your friend, and they'll say, "Hey, heroin's a lot cheaper, man. You'll get there a lot quicker."
Yeah, I could have
Why spend $80 when you could have just spent 10?
Yeah.
And that's what happens. Okay, and all of a sudden now you've turned into a prostitute. You're laying on the street corners. You're doing anything and everything to get this drug.
Yeah,
That's addiction, ladies and gentlemen.
Had I not had good medical insurance and health care and people that did end up stepping in, I don't know where it would have led me, And then I look at that and I say, God, I would have made $7,200 a month if I wanted to sell those pills, and that would have been just for my OxyContin. Never mind for the benzos and any of the other opioids. It's crazy. It's crazy. Then I'm looking through some more of these articles that have come up. The mayor of Toronto, Rob Ford.
Is he in rehab?
He's out,
He's
and
out.
he's going to run for re-election. He's announced, and of course, he is perfect tabloid fodder. Everybody is taking a shot at this guy. I tell you what, I wouldn't want to be him. There's days I don't want to be me, let alone want to be him.
Well, when people are running for office like that, there is no bad press. The more your name is out there, the more you're going to get reelected, it seems like.
Well, that's what I thought. Maybe I should run for office, because you know what? There's nothing that anybody could say about me that I won't say about myself already. But you look at some of these statistics and some of these stories. They're talking about Rob Ford needing a sobriety coach. Not a bad idea. It's everywhere you turn.
Exactly.
As you said, and we'll keep beating this horse to death. It does not discriminate. As soon as you think it can't happen to me or it's not going to happen in my family, I can guarantee you that your head is already in the sand, because it's already happening in your family. Exactly. It might not be you or your spouse or your daughter, but somewhere in that family tree,
it's happening.
It's happening, or it's happened, or it's waiting to happen, or it's festering and it's going to happen. Because ignorance, I'll tell you what, ignorance is the gasoline for that fire. Denial. Oh, man.
Exactly. What's funny is, if you're ever at a party where 20, 30 people are there, and one person will say, oh, I got a headache. And you'll see everybody reaching for their purses. I got this, and I got this. It's crazy.
Yeah.
They think because they got it from a doctor that it's okay. And, we want a shortcut to not feel. And these shortcuts are getting us in trouble, even if you're not an addict, just the side effects of these prescriptions are crazy, just the side effects.
Yeah.
There's over 180,000 people die every year from reactions to medicine. That means taking the right medication as prescribed, but it was a side effect that kills them. And that's not only the ones that you get from the doctor. Those same pills that you get, from Rite Aid or Walgreens or whatever, all of those have side effects also. All of those have side effects also. There is nothing easy in life. We are made to feel. We are made, to feel so we can conquer whatever it is we are going through. And that's the only way you can get past whatever it is by dealing with it, not covering it up. And that's all pills do, or medications. They just cover up the symptoms. They don't take away anything.
It's interesting. I still don't sleep well. You and I have spoken about, both of us, with our sleep habits. It was early this morning. I mean, the sun was starting to come up, and I'm sitting there on the sofa watching Shutter Island. Leonardo DiCaprio. The movie came out years ago. I don't remember when it came out. But he goes to this hospital on an island off the coast of Massachusetts for the criminally insane, and the doctor that's running it is played by Ben Kingsley, and it's supposed to take place in the early 50s. And it's a great movie, but one of the things, again, because of awareness and hypersensitivity, I'm watching this movie, and Ben Kingsley says to Leonardo DiCaprio's character, well, we've become this medical society of pharmacology where we want to throw a pill or a medication at it rather than sitting down with the patient and talking to them. And I'm sitting there going, holy cow. Now, when I watched that movie the first time, I don't know how many years ago, didn't even catch it. I don't even remember watching it the first time, exactly. But I know I saw it before. And you pick up all those little pieces that you never would have picked up before.
Exactly.
You never would have picked that up.
You know what, too? I get a lot of people, that ask me, and they say, why do you do this? Why do you relive, the loss of your daughter? If I lost my child, I don't think I could have got out of bed anymore, And I did. I went through that. But I found in telling her story, it was like giving somebody hope.
Oh, sure.
It was, the whole thing with me is I didn't want Brianna to be remembered just that she died of an addict.
No.
I wanted her to remember because somebody heard her story, it helped save their life. So when they go through that, they can say no, or they can say, hey, I got a problem that maybe I need to get some help. And thank you, Brianna. That's why I do this. And to be honest, it helped me heal. You learn to live with a loss. It never goes away. And I tell people, I got a hole in my heart that will never ever heal. But from what I do, I get a lot of gratification. As we speak, and then these kids are coming out and they're giving us hugs and they're thanking us for being there. They're thanking us for showing that we care enough about them, to be there and to tell our shitty stories or, the pains that we went through. So it's very gratifying.
It is so interesting because, with my career as a coach, I'll get a former player who, again, maybe I was in denial or didn't see the signs, but they'll come forward and talk to me about something or about a family member, and they'll thank you. Because obviously we don't get paid for what we do.
Sure.
But we do. We get paid in stuff that money just can never buy.
Exactly.
You cannot put a price tag on having a positive effect on somebody's life. You can't.
Exactly.
I mean, if you think about, and you and I have spoken about this, Sam, if you think about Brianna, and if she, and she is here, but I mean, if she were physically sitting here, she'd be happy because it's not wasted.
Exactly. Brianna came to me in a dream about a year ago, and I was was still very much struggling with her death, and in her dream, it was like she was right there. she was standing above me, and I still can picture her. And to be honest with you, I opened my eyes, and I was like, I was waiting to see her, you know, and I had to do a double take because she wasn't there. But in the dream, she told me, she said, Daddy, I'm okay. She said, just keep doing what you're doing.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and from there, it's like I got some peace over me too, you know, from that. And it was like, I know she's there, you know, and every time I would go on stage, it was like I would hear her in my ears, tell him, Daddy, tell him, you know. It was like she was there with me, and I do. I carry her with me everywhere I go, and she's definitely a big part of the message.
Oh, God, yeah. You know, I think about it all the time. People will say, oh, we're so sorry to hear about what happened and everything. I'll say, I'm not. You know, I'm the happiest recovering addict in the world, because if it wasn't for this, I would have continued on thinking that I was a man of faith, thinking that I had spirituality, thinking that I had this and had that, placing all the emphasis on the wrong things rather than knowing, having knowledge that I'm a man of faith, having knowledge that I'm placing the emphasis on the right things. On the way over here, I stopped, I went through the drive-thru at Starbucks. And young lady who I see every week when I'm coming here, she's one of the managers there. I told her, I said, you're always so happy. And she said, Charlie, I woke up this morning. She said, I got so many friends that are experiencing, you know, medical issues and everything else. She said, I got a new grandbaby this year, and I woke up this morning. And I told her, I said, you know what? Be grateful for the little things, and life is good.
Exactly.
You know, if you put your emphasis on the bigger car, the bigger house, more cars, more this, more that, you end up working a job you hate to pay for things that you don't like, that you don't need, and it's a vicious cycle. That in itself, addiction to work. I'm not opposed to hard work, but when work just for the sense of paying for stuff,
Exactly.
oh God.
Exactly. Well, that's what it is. A lot of times we buy, it's a gratification.
Sure.
But 10 minutes after we bought it, that gratification is gone.
Well, listen, they call it buyer's remorse. They actually have a term for it, you know?
Exactly.
God.
What did I do?
What did I do, and can I return it? Do I still have the receipt?
Exactly. We do have to be grateful for the little things, because you know, I'm a strong believer that tomorrow's not promised to us.
No.
And if we do get up today, it's a good
good
beginning.
On the Saturday that the farmers market opened, there was a young lady performing outside the entrance, Mama Soul.
Yeah.
I'd never heard of her before, never seen her before. I found her on YouTube. I'm trying to find it on iTunes. She did a spoken word rap about gratitude that was absolutely fantastic. I mean, I stood there and it gave me goosebumps. And I mean, gratitude. It's such a simple thing, but if you say to somebody, "Hey, how are you?" Typically, we say I'm good, because typically we don't want to tell people how we really are, and typically the person asking, they're just being polite. They don't really want to hear how you are. They don't want to be rude and walk by you. And if you really think about it, you know, my standard response is I'm fine, and I kind of laugh inside, because as I learned during my inpatient stay, fine is fucked up, insecure, neurotic, and emotional. So that always sums it up. But I'll either say I'm fine with a smile, or you ask somebody, how are you, and they want to, oh God, the dog shit on the floor, the car's on E, the house is too hot, and I'm thinking, well,
I really don't want to hear that shit.
well, no, but you're thinking, you've got a dog, you've got a car, you've got a house, you got a leg up on 99% of the world. Perspective is so underrated. It's so underrated.
You know, my mother, she'd always say, you know what? No matter how bad you got it, there's always somebody that's a lot worse off than you. So you always got it good.
Yeah.
You know, and that's a motto I've always lived with, and that was the best thing that my mother ever taught me. You know, we got to be thankful for what we have, you know, because it can always be worse.
Oh, absolutely. You know what? If you think that you've got it so bad, and it doesn't matter where you live, but all you have to do is drive down some of our streets. You know, if you want to complain because your air conditioner is broke, look at the person that's sleeping under a piece of cardboard.
Sure.
You know, if you want to complain that the bus is running late, find somebody who doesn't have any legs. And you know, these sound like radical examples, but they're not. They're all around us.
Exactly.
There was a great video that I forwarded or shared on Facebook yesterday. A little toddler. And I don't know what the backstory is, but he had one leg, so he had a prosthetic. And this was just a wee little kid, and he's got a walker, and he's learning how to walk. And his mother or his aunt, somebody with grandmother, friend, neighbor was filming him, and he's stumbling and getting back up, and you know, all he's saying over and over is, "I got it, I got it." He was happy, and I'm thinking, we get a cold, and it's like, oh, it's the end of the world. Perspective.
It's all what you put in your brain, you know.
Yeah.
If you want to be whoa me, that's what you get, and if you want to say it's great, and that's what you get too.
Absolutely.
You know,
glass half full, glass half empty.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
You know, I don't know. You know, some funny things too. Ozzy Osbourne. You know, when that show, The Osbournes, hit MTV, some people were outraged because of the language, and what they don't understand, many of them, is culturally, the F-bomb in England is not considered a curse. I remember being over, doing some business over in England when the original Austin Powers movie, The Spy Who Shagged Me, was out. And the people in the UK thought it was hysterical, and they were shocked that our little kids are running around in the US saying, Austin Powers, The Spy Who Shagged Me, Shagadelic, and all this, because to them, that's the F-bomb. Where they don't, to them, the F-bomb is like saying shag to us. There's a cultural difference. And they're talking about Ozzy Osbourne was just baffled. He was in Sweden doing a show, and he went to an AA meeting. And I'm reading this straight out. It says, Ozzy Osbourne went to an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting during a tour stop in Stockholm, but he struggled to join in as the session was conducted in Swedish. When we were in Stockholm on tour, I went to one. I couldn't understand a word they were saying. This is what he was quoted as saying. However, the rocker insists the session was not a waste of time and added that it still helped, just the act of going there. Now, my knee-jerk reaction is, well, even if it was in English, nobody would understand what the hell Ozzy was saying because he mumbles and stutters and mutters around. But I applaud the fact, number one, that, you talk about a guy that struggled and had his struggles, not just in the press, but
Sure.
in the media and everything else. And here he is. He's not quitting. He's not giving up. He's in Stockholm doing a show. He goes to an AA meeting. They're one of the summer, it's big summer concert festival tour time right now. And James Hetfield, the lead singer for Metallica, widely publicized, struggling with addiction, has been clean and sober. Well, now the drummer, Lars Ulrich, has said, it's a kind of a different tour because he's not drinking either. And back in their early days, Metallica was known as Alcoholica to their fans because of their wild benders. There is hope. We hear about the tragedies. You want to get depressed? Read the press.
Yep.
Go to MLive. How many more people got shot last
Listen
night?
to the news. The same thing. Yeah.
It's and I'm not saying that we have to be Pollyanna and just talk about the good things because the good doesn't exist if
Yeah, but
the
they'll
bad
give you
was-
like 1 second of something
Right.
good, and then 55 minutes of all the
right.
bad shit.
You're going to get 55 minutes of who got shot, who got robbed, what burned down, and then you get 5 minutes of a squirrel on a surfboard. Come on. It's crazy. There is hope. And I think that is, if I had one mission or objective or goal for us, aside from education and awareness, is saying that there's hope. Every story does not have to end like Breonna's. We can't turn the clocks back and change that. We'd love to, but we can't. However, there are people that we come in contact with every single day that some are going to be like me and talk about it. Other people will never tell a soul. Other people will only tell another addict. And you have to respect that. Everybody's got their own path, you know, that they're going to take. But then there's people like Rob, there's people like Alvon, there's people, I mean, we can go on and on that say, listen, this is what I was, this is what I did, but that's not who I am.
Exactly. The whole thing is life is very hard, and it's going to knock you down many times. And where it becomes bad is if you don't get up.
Right.
Get up, you know? Get up. It's all right to make a mistake. It's all right to fall. What's not all right is when you lay down and you stay down. Get up.
Yeah.
Do what you need to do. You know, Brianna, I'm a strong believer that when someone's born, God already knows when he's coming back to them. With Brianna, I was having protected sex, and I went through the rubber, and Brianna was conceived. So she was meant to be here. You know, that's how I look at it. And
Sammy Super Sperm.
Well, whether it was super sperm or whatever, you know, she was meant to come here. And I really had a hard time, you know, after she died. I was very upset. You know, I was mad at God. Why you give her to me to take her away, you know?
Yeah.
But because I think this is what God wanted me to do. And it took Brianna's passing for me to go this path. You know, and a lot of times we don't know what's expected or what, you know. You can have your whole life planned, and sometimes God says, no, I got something I want you to do. And
oh, God has a sense of humor. You want to see him laugh, tell him your plans, because he, you know, before you were ever conceived, he knew what your path was.
Exactly.
We're the ones who screw it up. We're the ones who try to say, you know what, it's my will, you know, whether, you know, I am Sam, hear me roar, I'm going to conquer the world. Well, you know what, you will if it's his will. If it's not,
exactly.
Take a bite out of the shit sandwich.
You know, after when the sheriff department came up with Chasing the Dragon presentation, they called me up and they says, Sam, we came up with this program. We're going to be putting it on at the school. Will you speak? And I said, yeah, I'll speak, you know. A couple hours later, they call me back. They says, can we use your 911 call? My wife's like, no, hell no. You know, I don't want to relive this. And I said, you know what? I says, we can't bring her back. She's gone. But if something like this 911 can open up these kids' eyes or their ears to listen to what we got to say, and let's do it. You know,
I don't care how many times I hear that. That is, for me, that is still the hardest part of our presentation.
It is for me
and
too. Yeah. You know what? You know, as kids, you know, with the rock and roll music and everything going on, they're having fun. But usually that 911, that's it. It gets their attention, and it gets their attention in a hurry. And I think that was ideal to have that there. You know, even though it didn't work out like that in Beecher, but I think we got their attention.
That's what we have Alvon.
Yeah, we got their attention before we got done. You know, I'll tell you what, finishing at Southwestern, I thought was just...
That was fantastic.
It was. You know, and the whole thing is, you know, Scott was in, he said that was you guys' best presentation because you were talking to your, you know, to the kids, and they were joining in with you guys, you know, and it was good, you know. And every now and then I think it's like we connect and we become one with the audience or with these kids, you know, and that was one of them.
The thing that day, I remember standing there and I asked the kids, if you know an addict, raise your hand. If you've been touched by addiction, raise your hand. If you've been to the funeral of an addict, raise your hand. By the time I rattled off a few of them, virtually every hand in that auditorium was up, and that was just proof. It's like, you know what? You could talk about the 23 million Americans, but it touches everybody.
Exactly.
And I don't care whether it's Sioux City, Iowa. I don't care if it's Fargo. I don't care if it's Flint. I don't care if it's LA, New York, Chicago. Big cities, little cities, urbans, suburbs, farm towns. It's everywhere.
That's where, you know, it puts it in perspective. It's like, this is why we do this, you know? And this is why we're not going away.
No.
We just keep getting better and stronger, and we're going to be touching more and more schools. So
I'd say,
if
what's
there's any
next year?
superintendents
Yeah.
listening, I'll be calling on you.
I'll say, what's next year shaping up to look like?
Well, we've got 3 pretty much just getting them on the books, but it's looking good. I just haven't had a chance to
Right.
to really follow up or do any of the phone calls yet, but I will be.
Well, I know with the feedback we got, we know where we're going back already, even if we don't have the signed signed
Exactly,
commitments.
exactly. And I'm expecting probably the strongest year yet.
Well, it's going to keep growing. It's going to
Exactly.
keep adding momentum.
You know, the whole thing is, I'm hoping that we are going to get into Oakland County, Macomb County. We have a few of them that we're working on, and it's looking good.
Right.
You know, so
Oakland, Macomb, Wayne. I mean, those.
all of them.
Yeah.
You know, you
Well,
just,
there's not a county in the
just
country.
pick a city, and we need to be there. That's it. You know, we talk about it all the time. This touches everybody, and everybody, especially our youth, needs to hear "Chasing the Dragon." Okay, they need to learn about addiction, and you know, through education is the only way that we can make things change. And you know, change, it begins with that person looking in the mirror. So that begins with me, you, everybody. Okay? And we need you to join in this fight, because together we can make a difference, and only together can we make the difference. One hand doesn't clap by itself.
No, and you know, if you look at an intervention, typically it's not one person talking to one person; it's a family.
Exactly. Exactly.
You know, it takes
Takes everybody.
it takes everybody.
You know, that's you know, a week or so before Brianna died, you know, my wife, she calls me on the phone. She says, I think she's still using. I said, you know what, honey? More likely she is. I says, but if we just keep talking, maybe something that we say will really touch home, you know, and help her to, you know, go a different path.
Well, and everybody at the right time. There has to be something, some motivating factor, some scare, some intervention, some something. And if an intervention doesn't work, maybe it's something else. You know, they're talking about the emergency room as being one of the best first opportunities to reach an addict, and nobody's doing that. Now, obviously, you can't just hang out at Hurley in the ER and say, "Hey, you look like you're going through withdrawal. Can I talk to you?" You know, but you know, we've got to let, you know, maybe, and I don't have all the answers. I don't have any of the answers, but maybe we go to our physicians next time you go to your doctor for your physical, and say, "Listen, here's my card. Here's my number. If you have a patient that you think is struggling, I understand that you can't give me their name, but you can give them my card, and if they want to get a hold of me," I mean, I've done that with my primary care.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever it takes. Whatever it takes.
Exactly. You know, when Brianna died, the word got out, and her phone rang. So I picked up her phone, and it was a friend of hers, you know, and she said, "Is it true?" I said, "Yeah, you know, it's true. She's dead. Please don't do this crap, you know." She says, "You know, we have overdoses all the time, but we're not supposed to die." It's like, it's part of the everyday thing, you know. But overdoses, people die, okay? And if you're having a problem, please reach out for help, okay? Somebody wants you to come home, okay? They don't want to put you, you know, look at you in a pine box, okay? There's hope, okay? If you want to make a change, it starts within you.
Call us. Get a hold of us on Facebook, on Twitter, email.
208-1854.
Yeah, I mean, just reach out. I mean, take the first step.
Exactly.
Even if you don't know that you've got a problem, if you think you do, if you think there's somebody that you want us to talk to, even if it's not you,
Exactly.
it doesn't matter.
Exactly. You know, I get a lot of calls or messages on Facebook from, as a matter of fact, a couple days ago, I got some from the Bendel area. And it wasn't, she was struggling with this, but it was her brother's fiance, you know, is an alcoholic. So there is hope, okay? And if we can't help you, we'll get you in touch with the right people,
Right.
okay? People that are addiction specialists or rehab places, okay? And that's their job, okay? Please join in this fight. Call us for help. Do what you need to do to make a change, okay? It takes everybody, okay? Don't wait till you're at a funeral home and say, I wish I could have done something for this person. I knew that they were using, all right? Thanks for joining us today. Hey, we love you. Please call us. We want to love to hear what you got to say, all right? Thanks very much.
Thank you. Molly would get up and say thank you, but she's so excited that I want whatever she's taking.
All right, until next week. We're
Thanks,
out.
folks. Bye-bye.